X and YouTube and Rumble. So wherever you is, am, or be, make sure you are there. Make sure you is there, you is am and be's there. Good on there. We are hot. We are hot, hot. Good and good on that X and on Rumble. The multi-stream is a new feature we added in. Make sure we take full advantage of everything we're doing here on the Inner Zones. We'll do the advertisement for the Patriots, if you know what I mean, later on, and the cocaine. We'll do that later as well. But right here, I'm going to go ahead and bring him in. Jeran of Jeranism. I'm going to make sure we get him hot for his mic before he says hello. So go ahead and say hello, see if you're in there. Not yet. So we'll get the Discord audio for you. I got you on this side. So here we go. I got you on that side. Go ahead and say it down. Say hello.
Test, hello.
Yes, we got him hot. Give me a 5x5 in the chat, everybody. A 5x5 in the Chiz chat. So we got that Discord audio up there for us. Good, good. Now we're going to also give us a little bit of the background thump. So we do a little bit of that copyright free music, everybody. So let's get that here. Looks good. So Jeran, tell us a little about yourself. As everyone knows, I am Kang Bear, the toe of the house, red pill, first of my name, Lord of the Reaper Horde. And your Jeran has gone on a journey of your own. Tell us about who you are, what has recently happened to you. I do know that you are you're pretty famous on the internet sphere. So tell us who you are and what happened with you.
Well, I've been a YouTuber for 10 years and celebrating 10 years in as of February. And I pushed a lot of flat Earth content and then also various conspiracies, obviously, throughout the pandemic and through everything else. So that's where I'm at. And yeah, so in December, I went down to Antarctica and saw something that made me realize that my beliefs were unfounded and not backed by real world evidence. So I switched my belief, and you would have thought that I killed people or, drugged old ladies or something based on the response of my former friends. That's about it. What else do you want to know? I'm an open book, so you can ask anything you want.
So what led you first to Flat Earth? What was the thing that attracted you to that? That's my first question for you.
Well, I guess it was kind of getting out of religion, and then I wanted to build my belief structure from the bottom up. And so we kind of talked to my wife about that. So let's just only believe things that we can prove and that we can show. And within like the first week, she was looking out her bedroom window and said, "Could the Earth be flat?" And I thought that was ridiculous and told her, "No, of course not. Planes go, around it." And she's gone east and gone to Germany. I've gone west, gone to the Philippines. So I said, so clearly the Earth is a sphere. And then I guess it was about a week later, I was actually looking into the moon landings and found Eric Dubé's site for the first time, and saw on that site the AE azimuthal equidistant flat Earth map, if you will, the Gleason's map as they call it. And so that was probably my first introduction to it. I was looking at that map and realizing that planes can go around it. And so I kind of felt bad about telling my wife that that was ridiculous. So then I wanted to kind of disprove it, right? Falsify it, but I couldn't do that very well because I went looking for north-south circumnavigation, didn't find much. And then there was just all these things that kept happening that were leading me down that road. So then I said, okay, maybe flat Earth is a possibility. And then you start talking about it on the internet, and then before you know it, you're getting a bunch of people behind you saying that they felt the same way, and they kind of push you into that area. And then, confirmation bias means that when you are seeking out evidence of something, that you often ignore contradictory evidence, and you just look for and count anything that goes towards your desired belief. So I think I got caught up in that pretty good. I've known since the beginning of Flat Earth that it required the South to be a lie. And so I'd never been south of the equator and just assumed that there must be lies down there. That's because I assumed the Earth was flat. So once you go down there and you realize that that is not the case, then you realize Flat Earth is untenable, despite its many evidences. As people say, well, what do? Throw away the rest of your evidence? Well, it depends what kind of evidence you're talking about. But, if you ever showed up at a murder scene and there's a bunch of pairs of shoes, they're all evidence. Only one of them maybe will lead you to the right answer. So it's kind of the same thing that, did I
Good
throw away
point.
the rest of my evidence? No, there's still evidence that the Earth is flat, but it's just not going to bring you to the right answer because the Earth is not flat. So just because the Earth may be something that looks flat, or water, we may think it finds its level or flatness, that doesn't lead us to the correct answer of the Earth being flat. There are other possibilities.
So it's just you trying to have
that's
an
my story.
open mind to a possibility of something. And then because you couldn't falsify it and couldn't falsify it and couldn't verify the globe, because most of us, we don't have the giant vision to be able to see the planet from space.
Right.
And then everyone says, well, the stuff they're showing you is all CGI and it's all fake and it's all this and that. Next thing you know, you wind up with a situation where your confirmation bias kicks in and you think, well, it has to be true because it verifies my presuppositions.
Yep. And then I think that they didn't do a good job of teaching it in school, even looking back now. Some things could be better explained, I think, to avoid this in the future. As far as like 1,000-mile-per-hour spin, which is what you'll hear a lot of flat earthers say, oh, we're spinning 1,000 miles per hour out of control. And so when you hear that and you're just a lay person and you've never contemplated the idea or understood really what it involves, it's very easy to say, yeah, I'm not spinning 1,000 miles per hour. 1,000 miles per hour, I'd fly off the Earth. But really, 1,000 miles per hour on a planet the size of the Earth is very, 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 very slow.
Correct.
So slow, in fact, if you want to figure out how fast we're spinning, go outside and look at a shadow and watch the shadow move, and that's how fast you're moving. And watch the moon move in the sky, and you won't even notice that it's moving, and that's how fast we're spinning. So, if they never said that in school, they just kind of glossed over, the idea. And same thing with like the flatness of the Earth. It's good to point out to probably children that yes, everywhere that we are is flat because the sphere is so large.
Right.
That locally and for our size, things can be treated. The Earth can be treated as flat. So then when I learned all that, then everything made sense. Why did we find all these documents that say to treat the Earth as flat and non-rotating? Because for pretty much all reasons that you can think of, we can treat the Earth as flat and non-rotating. However, it doesn't mean that the Earth is a plane or a flat extended plane. It is a sphere that's so large that it creates the opportunity for us to treat it like it's a flat ground everywhere we are, despite the undulations or rivers, mountains, that kind of thing.
It's like a microbe being on a basketball will perceive it to be ultimately flat and level because it's so large. The basketball is in such a large proportion, and most of us can't wrap our minds around the proportionality of the actual Earth, let alone our solar system, let alone our galaxy. So
getting bigger than that.
And next thing you know, you try to get the human mind cannot get past it. And it's because we need to have something that we see, quantifiable data in front of us, the daily. Does it really matter to you what shape the Earth is in the end? No, because you still are going to have tacos for lunch, and you're still going to go into your job, and you're still going to kiss your wife goodbye, and you still want your routine. We all just understand that it's not something that registers in your mind, and our brains aren't designed to be quantumly calculating the movement of the Earth, the sun, all of our planets, plus the galaxy, plus it's a waste of your human bandwidth. And we don't need that. We couldn't function as a species if we had to constantly calculate, with every foot, I have to make sure that I'm moving with the rotation of the Earth. It's just so large, you move with it. Could you imagine what that would be like? Now, this reminds me of Joe Rogan talking about taking one of those super gummies from California, and he asked, hey, how potent are these things? And someone says, oh, just bite a little like leg off and you'll be fine. He says, by the time he went to his appointment to go swim with dolphins, he was clinging to the dolphin and trying to calculate the rotation of the Earth. He could feel the spin. He said, you got to be pretty damn high to be feeling some of that stuff. So
I think that's the thing too. Flat earthers don't. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just think that it has a lot to. It's fun to think about these things, but when it becomes a religion. And it's become very religious. There's a lot of religiosity that I've noticed in flat earthism. And there's a lot of New Age Christianism, Christian nationalism, and sadly some neon Nazis have also, like Eric Dubé is openly anti-Jewish and anti-Semitic and pro-Hitler. So is that Caleb Productions guy. I've blasted them both on X. I'm like, all you're doing is making it harder for people like me to help extract people from this cult, because you will destroy your reputation, just being associated with flat earth, let alone, oh yeah, you're that neo-Nazi guy that thinks the world's flat. This is so damaging to people. Right. And what you did, number one, get on the plane with Will Duffy and Mick Toon and the others, and flying your ass down to Antarctica, a place you thought was an ice wall at one time, a place you thought couldn't exist really, and seeing it, experiencing it, and then watching that 24-hour sun and admitting on camera, well, I guess I was wrong. Balls. I mean, I know you didn't feel that way at the moment.
You have to. Well, no, I mean, I don't. I guess my opinions have changed a lot since I've been on YouTube from what I thought it was at the beginning, and now I kind of realize that it's not really a place for truth telling. It's sensationalism is what gets you views and what gives you an audience, and then catering to that audience is how you grow your audience and make money. And it was never something I did. So I've always been kind of the black sheep, because being not a Christian, so I would speak out against that, which obviously upsets the flat Earth community. And that was kind of my way of doing things. I just said I'm just going to be myself and just say the truth. And so when I went down to Antarctica, I knew that what it would mean if I saw the sun, but and I knew that if I had to admit that I was wrong, that I would just admit that I was wrong. So, I mean, it actually happened before we even went to Antarctica, down in Punta Arenas. And if anybody out there is a flat earther and they want to see something that would make you change your mind, just going to Punta Arenas and watching the sunset in December. The sun sets right to left, which is completely different than what we see here in the north. And it barely dips under the horizon for a couple hours, 3 or 4 hours, and then rises again in the southeast. And what you have to recognize is that in that time that it was underneath the horizon, it has to light both Australia and Africa before it comes back around to you. So you have to ask yourself the question of, if you imagine standing in South America looking west on a flat earth map, Australia is to the right. It's over there to the right. And you actually see the sun go down right to left. So you're like, wait, how could it go to the left? And then it comes back up over there on the east. So how did it get around to Australia? It couldn't have. So obviously, even seeing the sun south of you in Antarctica should be an eye-opener. But even from where we were, we could see the light moving right to left down south, which tells you the sun's not doing what the flat earth map dictates. And then you have to ask yourself the question, well, is there a model that explains what I'm seeing? And the answer is 100% yes. And that model is the model that I rallied against for 10 years. So
understood.
Now I'm on its team.
And now you understand that being involved with Flat Earth for 10 years, promoting it, putting it out there, exploring it, even if you were just doing thought experiments, you have enough of a backing of confirmation bias. And did you feel people love bombing you into the confirmation bias camp? And, oh, you're the best, Jeran. Oh, we got your back. We're the bestest Iliestus of friends. Like David Weiss, like how to describe your relationship with him then and now.
I mean, yeah, Dave and I go way back to, I know I got started before him, but when he came into it and started talking, then he became somebody I'd talk to at least maybe twice a week on the phone. And he was just gung-ho, always, wanted to build an app, wanted to do this, wanted to push it to more people, want to make Frisbees with the flat earth on it to hand them out at concerts, whatever it was. He always had some game plan. And I kind of respected him for that at the time. I thought that he was more ambitious as far as getting the word out there than I was. And it was pretty quickly, I would say in a couple of years, that I kind of started to see what was happening to families and people like that. So I started to kind of change my tune a little bit from, hey, get out there and tell everybody about it and get in their face and, that kind of thing, to, hey, be careful. You don't want to call your brother a moron and him call you a retard, because once that happens, you're both going to dig your feet in and nobody's ever going to admit that the other person's right, because with that comes the admission that, hey, I guess I am the moron, or I guess that I am the retard. Right. So you saw that with families, you saw that with husband and wives. And so I saw that happening, and I kind of told people, but they still, when they heard about it and they got accustomed to it, or that they knew enough about it, there's this desire in you to go yell it and tell other people. And the problem with that is that, of course, most people, especially people that are educated, are going to know that that's insane. And so they're going to fight back, and they're going to call you names. And then you're going to have listened to flat earth content creators who think that ball believers are crazy, evolution believers, and that they're all just science cucks. And so you then will call that person names. And when you do that, then most people are going to have a hard time getting out. So that was probably, and the love bombing for sure. I mean, when you start doing conferences, you have people that show up there specifically to see you. They'll come and tell you that, oh, you're the reason I came here. And so it's hard for you to realize I could be wrong, because how could somebody be wrong, have people show up and want to speak to them and want to get their autograph or something, or want to take pictures with you. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a hidden thing that you don't really realize at the time. But looking back, clearly all that is not going to cause you to say, hey, I should really look more carefully at this. And yeah, just if you don't understand the globe, which I don't think I did, right? I didn't go to college, so I didn't have a good grasp of it. In fact, I still remember my wife and I walking around our bedroom trying to figure out how how the Earth's shadow caused the phases of the moon. We're just lost as could be, could not figure it out. And then we were like looking it up, and it's like, wait, hold on, the shadow of the Earth isn't what so I mean, that's how backwards I was at the beginning of this. And now if somebody were to say that to me, I would laugh at them, right? But I think it's funny that they don't know that. But again, I think that, so somebody like that who doesn't know those little things, should he really be rallying against the globe Earth if I don't understand it? Well,
Right.
Looking back, that wasn't the best idea, but that's what I was doing at the time. Was I remember saying things like, why don't we just get up in a rocket ship and wait in space for the moon to come, since it's moving at a certain speed? We could just get up there and wait for it to come to us, not understanding how, what do you
Orbit
call that?
works.
Not momentum. What's the word? Yeah, what do they call it when you get off the Earth? You're going that same speed. There's a word for it.
Like a geocentric,
anyway,
like being in a geosynchronous orbit where you're staying in one spot, then you'll never meet.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the name of the. There's a word for it. Something that's moving keeps moving. What is that? What is that word? Anything in motion is going to continue in that motion unless it's stopped.
Inertia. The momentum.
Inertia. Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Right. So when you leave the Earth, you are moving with the inertia or with the momentum that the Earth was moving with. So that idea is just ridiculous. You can't get up in space and wait for the moon to come, and it's all moving as a system. So I think just learning some of those things, it didn't take me off of the flat Earth. It actually, surprisingly, and this is my biggest complaint right now, is a bunch of people saying, well, how could he possibly know this much about the globe that he's arguing for it? And it's because I learn. So in the last 10 years, yes, I was a flat earther, but throughout that time, I had to learn the globe. If you're going to go up against it, be in debates, you need to learn about the globe. So throughout the whole time I've been learning about the globe, did I agree with it at the time? No, I thought that it was not true, but it was a system that worked. I understood that, the idea of it worked. And so it wasn't until the South was determined to be exactly what the heliocentric and the globe model says it is, because then if you've got the South that's the opposite of the North, but just 6 months later, and basically no matter what latitude line you're on, it's kind of the same year to year or 6 months away from each other, that you would have the same daylight hours, that you would have the same sunrise, sunset times, all that kind of stuff just told me that, oh, the Earth has got symmetry that cannot be produced on any other shape. So It is a sphere.
And one of the reasons why it is a sphere is how gravity works. It tends to pull things into a sphere. That's why raindrops form into a sphere. That's why all the planets are spheres. That's why the sun is a sphere. It's just that's gravity, pulls everything into that. It's just the most uniform shape that something will take, and it completely eradicates the idea that anything would go flat like that. But I wanted to compliment you on the fact that it took massive balls that you had to carry around in a wheelbarrow to continue speaking out like you are now against the very ideas that you were proposing so passionately. And now you're dealing with the other subject, and that is the attacks from the people that were former friends who were like, you were never a flat earther, you're a shill, you're a Satanist, oh, he said he's not a Christian. And I'm like, yeah, I've experienced that myself, because, running around the internet, you hook up with different people and they pull you into their group and they don't really tell you what they're really about. And then when you find out what they're really about, you go, not my bag, and you walk away. It's like, no, you can't come back here. You're like, I'm leaving. They're like, no, wait, no,
not allowed
please.
Yeah.
And then what are some of what's the worst of it for you? I understand, I get the doxing and death threats and all that other shit. I get it. I've had it happen to me too. The psychological impact of people believing false things about you is the worst thing for me. I'm like, look, come at me, bro. When you say, I want to fight you, I'm like, fine, it's fine. Even someone threatening to murder me, I'm like, okay. You have very little chance of accomplishing that. I'm a big dude. You meet me in real life, you go, oh, fuck, Ken, you're big. I'm like, yeah. And also I've got 3 different black belts and I love to use my shit on you. But, the worst part is when people spread lies about you, which they're actively doing now about you.
Oh, yeah.
And that to me is the worst. From people that used to sing you praises are now like, oh, everything I said about him and blah, 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 blah. What has been the worst for you? Has it been that, or is it something else?
No, I'd say that's probably it. I guess I should have expected it because, like you said, when you leave a group, that group's going to be upset. So I'd say that the worst is just the people that were long time. Because again, if let's say there's a group of flat earthers and they all follow Dave Weiss and myself, let's say they follow both of us, but then I defect and then Dave could tell literally anything he wants about me. And the group of flat earthers has the choice of believing in the flat earther or believe in the person who's defected. Well, they're just not going to ever believe me. So by default, they're going to always believe the flat earthers. So they've taken advantage of that, and they know that they can get away with basically saying anything, and it will pass. So that's the probably the worst part is just and your friends that can just so easily throw you under the bus. And when you're the one being honest, so that's why it's the easiest, I guess, is that no matter how hard it gets, no matter what happens, is I know I'm doing the right thing. I know that I'm being honest in my opinion. That if I would have done one show when I got back and tried to pretend to be a flat earther, it would have been lying to my audience, which I don't do. So my options were pretty simple. I didn't have any. My options were to be honest. And so if there's a bunch of things that happen because of that, you have to really just hope that the universe works it out, that, because what my other option would be to lie, like I said. So when your options are those two, I choose the being honest option despite the repercussions. So,
and again,
it's got to be the way it goes. The way it goes.
Takes it again, balls in the wheelbarrow. Be honest, regardless of how much damage it does to you for the short term, because in the end, you always win that war. Because people are like, wait, he thought he was telling the truth when he was misled into believing something. He then realized he was wrong, and now he's been telling everybody, like, I was wrong, and this is why. And you can say what you want about me, but the truth is the truth is the truth is the truth. So their lies always fade away because you continue being you. And people are like, hey, yeah.
And the earth isn't going to be, it's not going to show up to be flat. So it's not like something you have to worry about. I don't have to worry that in a week somebody's going to figure something out and it's, it is flat. I'm always open to evidence, but I also have been here 10 years. So I understand what flat earth did well, which very little, but what it did badly, what it shelving things that didn't work. And so again, if we wouldn't have went down there and the sun set, then we've got a competing model to where we can say, okay, well, the globe has this mistake. They're saying this happened 6 months later, but it didn't happen. The flat earth is saying it wouldn't happen, and then it didn't. So you would be able to have a conversation now where you could start to dive into both claims of both sides. But when you go down there and you realize that the south is exactly what is described, then the flat earth comes up short because it means that the entirety of the below the equator is no longer correct. And then you've got lines of longitude that need to shrink back down on the globe. We can measure those distances and see that they do. And then, the flat earth, even in southern Australia or southern Africa, it's like a 4-to-1 ratio, meaning that on a flat earth, those distances are 4 times larger. So, measure 50 miles on a map on a globe, but on a flat earth, that would need to be nearly 200 miles. So you just start to realize how faulty it is. Sunset directions and times, and then you start to see all the predictions that the globe makes, and the flat earth makes 0 predictions. And then I started seeing people in the flat earth lying, saying things like all flat maps call for a 24-hour sun in the south. And when I heard that from one person, I'm like, oh, this guy's just a straight liar. But then I started hearing other people in the community say it. I'm like, okay, this is a problem. We have people just repeating completely false statements. And then I've noticed that even more now that somebody like this guy from Spacebusters, his name is Steve Falconer. He came out with a video called Scam Arctica 1, where he went through and called Antarctica a scam and all these things. And I watched it. It was pretty poor a video, but I kind of just laughed it off. Then he came out with a second video where he called it Scam Arctica 2. And in that video, right from the start, he's explaining one of these problems and saying that you have a problem. And he's describing 2 bases in Antarctica where one is west of the other one. So in our heads, I can understand where he was coming from, that he said there's no way that the sunrise can happen on the east first. No way it can happen on the west item first before the east. And so he's showing these two bases. One of them is clearly west of the other one, and it gets its sunrise first. So he just chalked that up to there's some sort of scam going on in Antarctica, and it's all wrong. Well, you just take out the globe and you look at it, and you realize that, yeah, in the southern summer, that the sun, because it comes around the back end of the globe, comes around the south there, that it does rise first for the place in the west, which is very strange. But you can find in the north the same thing happens. Like, I forgot what it is. Minneapolis, maybe somewhere like that, has a sunrise before Miami. Even though it's west of Miami, it's just the way that the globe works, right? The sun's coming around the backside of the north and rises, and then the person farther north actually sees the sun slightly before the person south of it. So anyway, he puts out this video. The very first thing you can do is go look at all the comments, and everybody's saying, way to go, you're a truth teller, you nailed them, scam Antarctica, yeah, Antarctica's a joke, you expose them, and he's just wrong. And then you point it out to him, or you point it out and then your comment gets deleted. And then you notice that now, yeah, and then Dave Weiss posted it, and Mark Sargent posted it, and they're on shows saying, you got to check out Scam Antarctica too. He nails them to the wall. So then you start realizing, oh shit, we're in more trouble than I thought, because the saying that a lie gets halfway around the world before the truth puts its shoes on, which is totally true. That you can't correct that. It's just not possible for me to correct his mistake if he's not going to take it down, which he should do. If I made a video and was just completely wrong about something, I would make a retraction or I would pull it, because why do I want to have people watching that? They don't do that. They just move on to the next thing. They don't care if they get it wrong. So unfortunately, the people that watch Flat Earth content don't actually follow up on a thing. They just listen to that video. They hear him say Antarctica is a scam. They put thumbs up. They go in the comments, say you're the second coming of Jesus, and then they move on. And then everybody else sees that, and it's just kind of like a self-fulfilling thing. It's just a
confirmation bias
and echo chamber. Right. Right. And so it just moves quickly through the community, and then you've got all these flat earthers going around who believe all these memes that they've seen, or believe things like, oh, well, Nixon called the moon landings from a landline, things that are not the case, but they've just seen them in a meme and they think that, and they start adopting all these beliefs. And if they really look through them, they would find out that many of their ideas have been shown to be faulty or wrong, straight up wrong.
Well, it's because in a lot of ways, doing research, that takes time and effort. I want it delivered to me in meme format. I want to, I have you shove the memes in. These people, remember, most people, 67% of people do not have an inner monologue. That's a frightening number. I'll say it again. 67% of people do not have an inner monologue. The exact number of people they found in the Milgram study, the Milgram experiment, who will give you a lethal dose of electricity just because some egghead with a clipboard and a lab coat said that you had to continue the experiment. They wanted to know why Nazi Germany happened. Why did so many people just went along? Well, they found out 100% of people will turn you in. Everyone will call the cops on you. Everybody. Everyone will at least listen to the propaganda and nod their head and look around to each other and nod their head. But 67% of people actually do you in themselves. And they found out as well, Tim Pool talked about it, they found a study that said 33% of people didn't have inner monologues. They realized that was inverted. It's actually 67% of people do not have inner monologues. They're literally walking around with boom, ba-doom, 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 SpongeBob in their head, boom, ba-doop, ba-doop, and they're just responding to stimuli. And so when you understand this, that means 67% of every persons that you ever meet have that. Then know of the 33%, 67% of them are going to be, susceptible to this kind of indoctrination. And that's what I see. Now I have to address the chat for a second here on Rumble. We got a new person in the chat. The Shadow says geometry. He says, yes, I've spent time working in different parts of the world. Simple observation of your shadow proves curvature. It's shorter near the equator and your shadow gets longer near the poles. I was like, that's interesting. We got, of course, Russ saying that he is a future deleted comment. Thank you, Russ. Russ is he's my Siamese twin. And we were never separated at birth. He lives in another state, so I don't know how that works, but still it makes as much sense as flat earth. I got, of course, Astro Sweat saying, yeah, I'm going to double down that it's frustrating in the face of proof. Definitely doubling down. And my chat gets a little rowdy over there on Rumble. We're more of a free speech platform, but we get a little crazy. But people are asking.
I don't mind.
It's great stuff. We have a good time. So It's these really pointed questions that people need to come to grips with. I noticed the very cult-like echo chamber that forms around flat Earth, but they accuse everyone else. No, you're the ones in the cult. It's like, I'm politically on the right. I support Trump. I'm supporting what Elon is doing. I don't like everything. I'm not a psycho fan. I don't worship the guy. He's a dude with good ideas. Some things will fail. Some things will be proven to be bad ideas. But I'm not going to sit there and say, yeah, go Trump no matter what. No, every time he mentioned the vax, I was like, fuck, boo, 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 hiss, because it proved to be damaging. I mean, I know it's damaging because I have patients that get on my table that have got vaccine injuries. Some of them are severe. I have some people that are going to be, well, dead in the next 5 years because they went out and got Fauci 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they did it every time the TV told them to. That's because, remember, 67% of people don't have that inner thought process. They just think, TV say, I do. These are still smart, rational people. And we all have to recognize that you can slide into that 67%. Like when you drive to work, do you think about turn left, brake here, stop, look left and right? You just go, don't you? Because you put your brain into autopilot to get you from point A to point B on a familiar zone. We can all swing from 33 to 67. Fortunately, there's a way to get yourself back out to more active 33 brain, but that takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of effort to stay cognitively awake. And we sometimes want to unplug. When I play a video game, I want to unplug. I don't want to think. I want to hit buttons and kill shit. Playing Path of Exile or playing Diablo 2 or whatever. I'm just slaying shit. Don't care. I don't want to think right now. No, I do enough thinking for my show. I don't have a producer in the show. Newt is my producer online, and I do everything here. And when people see my studio, they go, how are you doing this all by yourself, gang? Weaponized ADHD, baby. That's how it's happening. That's how it's happening.
I do the same thing. So people are very confused about that.
You get it, yeah. So we got Wood Geek Stream in the house. He's part of the BPL network. And also Building Point.live, Rev Rant himself. He's talking about mass formation psychosis is real. So did you see the mass formation psychosis? Did you see how that affected the flat earthers? Did you see how that affected them and the hysteria they had over the final experiment proving once and for all that Antarctica was a place and that it was not an ice wall and that the sun did not go down for 24 hours? Did you experience that? Did you said you knew as soon as you landed in Punta, in the Punta.
I had an idea. I didn't say no because we had to go south to make sure that was the sunlight and not some sort of a light effect off of a dome, which is what I would have given it, a thought. But no, when you go down there, you realize once you followed the sun stays in the sky for 4 days, just circles your head. It was definitely the sun, despite what flat earthers will say. Yeah, they fell apart. And there's a reason for that. And I've kind of come to see that they have already decided the earth is flat, right? So they take that position. And if you ask one of them, hey, what if the earth isn't flat? They'll laugh in your face. They'll say, we know it's flat, which is the most anti-scientific position to ever take. Now they'll throw back at me and say, but the Globers say that. The Globers say they know it's a globe. So what's the difference? Well, the difference is that they're right. So unfortunately, you can get away with some things in life when you're right. You can be an asshole and be right, or you can be you can use basically selection bias, or you can use confirmation bias, or you can use a lot of things like that you shouldn't. But if you're right, you get away with it. So that's kind of the thing, is that the globe is correct. So no matter what people use, you can say, oh, you shouldn't use that confirmation bias, or you should look openly at the question. You can do that, but a lot of people have already reached the conclusion that it is in fact a sphere. Everything that we do, every observation we make, there isn't an observation that's made on the earth that doesn't conform to, or at least show that it comes from the sphere. So that's one of the things that's been hard to reconcile is just the amount of people that believe, like you said at the beginning when you said they project. We used to tell people that they were indoctrinated, right? Oh, you went to school, you're indoctrinated, you just repeat things, which again, it's the truth, what they learned. So the problem with that is, of course, that the ones being indoctrinated truly are the flat earthers, and they're being indoctrinated with a lie, which is far worse than being indoctrinated with the truth, right? If you're going to be indoctrinated with anything, you would hope that you're being told something that's true. So the problem with that is that now we have flat earthers going around saying the most ridiculous things. The newest thing that they go around saying is, you can't tell the shape of the ground by looking at a light in the sky,
right?
Which is insanity because it's evidence. And so we always accept evidence. You would never bar certain types of evidence from your inquiry, that's not the best way to get to the answer. So it's just funny because no one's ever said that in the history of the world. They've just been saying it since TFE. And then people will say to me, oh, one guy brought evidence of me saying before that you can't tell the shape of the ground by looking at the shape of the lights in the sky. And I said, yeah, that's different. I said, if somebody tells me, hey, I look up in the sky and I see the sun's a sphere and the moon's a sphere, therefore we're a sphere. Well, I disagree with that line of logic, because it doesn't mean just because things in the sky are spheres that you're a sphere. However, that is totally different than saying that you can't tell the shape of the ground by using the lights in the sky. The reason that you use the sun to determine the shape is because the sun is like a measuring stick, right? The reason we use rulers is because they're standard. Every ruler is the same, so you can take it here or there and you can measure things against it. If the ruler changed all the time and the size of inches changed, well, then we wouldn't use that, right? So the sun can be used as a measuring stick because it has a very known orbit of 24 hours. So we know the direction it goes. We know where it's at of every minute of every day. And based on that, you can then say, somebody can hand you a map and say, you live here. And the very first thing you should look at is the sun, because if it doesn't jive with the sun, then you can hand it back and say, no, I don't. And that's basically what we should have done with the flat earth from the beginning, because it does not answer questions about the sun. For example, one thing right off the bat is in the south, the sun sets for everybody, if you're looking west, from right to left. So we mostly, people probably listening to this, or 95% of the population, I think, lives in the north. And when we see the sun set looking west, we see it set left to right. So on a flat earth, what would cause the sunset direction to change just because you cross the equator? Well, clearly nothing. The sun still goes in a clockwise formation around the earth. So therefore, you should not have any change like that. So there's a lot of little things like that that I should have seen and should recognize their importance. But trying to convince now flat earthers that as soon as you say anything about the sun, they just clap back with, well, you're choosing the shape of the ground by looking at the lights in the sky. And it's like, well, yes, because if the sun sets for some people one direction and other people the other direction, but it's always moving uniformly in a circle, then how could that be? Unless there's a reason why on one side of the equator you would see things differently than the other side. And that's true because the nature of a sphere. If you kind of picture yourself at the equator and then going towards the north, you kind of fall sideways, and then the other way you fall this way, which would cause the sun to appear to look like it's setting in a different direction. So
that's why you see
Just
the
wish more people did
stars
that.
going to one direction on top on the North Pole, and they go the other direction on the South Pole because you're on a sphere. Interesting fact that BowlingPoint.live Reverend Rant just brought up. He said, critical factor bypass, which is bypassing critical thought and trade for emotional response. And that's part of the hook of the echo chamber, the cult that forms around flat earth, or, it also happens with like people that are like, it's the Jews, the same thing happens there, or, the lizard people, the shape-shifting aliens from underground. It's just, whatever conspiracy theory it may be, there's always an emotional response. Like they literally want to fight you when you present them with evidence that proves they're wrong, because cognitive dissonance does in fact trigger all the pain receptors in the brain as if you're physically being assaulted. And so does ostracism. Right. That's why when you see little kids, they want to be mean to a little kid without hurting them physically. They form a circle around them, and they can yell, chair, chair, chair at a kid. He's like, what's that mean? They don't understand that. All they know is they're being ostracized, and that causes physical pain. Similar to cognitive dissonance, because you are feeling ostracized because of the cog dis. Cog dissonance also gives you that type of pain. I spent many years listening to Stefan Molyneux here on Rumble, actually, on YouTube, and I actually called in, was on one of his shows, Gods and Monsters. I was on that show. I was working as a personal trainer at the time. And I called in.
I feel bad for people like him. He's a globe earther I gave a hard time to. What's the other guy's name that I can't remember his name. It's a couple people who were stood their position and said the Earth's a sphere, and then the truth community dismissed them.
Yeah.
And that's, I do think it is a psyop. I do think it hurts the truth community. Whether or not that it wasn't. Yeah. And I don't know if that was intended, but I do think there's some things about for instance, the cameras that I found that at the South Pole cut out 8 hours every day. That's just a questionable thing, because many people went looking to the South Pole webcams to see the 24-hour sun. And when you see that they cut out 8 hours every day, it's very easy to create a narrative in your mind where they do that so that they don't show that there is no 24-hour sun. So there's things like that where you're able to read into things that you maybe shouldn't have. Another thing is you might dismiss an entire plate of evidence because you go looking for one thing wrong with it. So, for example, when I was looking for north-south circumnavigation, because I knew people went east-west all the time, billions of people have circumnavigated east-west, but I don't know how many have ever done it north-south. And when you go looking, there's just not a many. But I found one guy named Sir Ranulph Fiennes who did it 79 to 82, I think. And they call him the world's greatest explorer, but he's friends with the Queen and he's friends with Prince Charles. So I immediately had doubts, but I went looking specifically to find something to discount his entire journey. And so I found a case in court where basically a lady accused him of faking accidents on his expedition. And he stood in court and admitted to doing that. But he basically, in the court case, he was saying, yes, but she knew we were going to fake the accidents. And then he won the case because she can't go and say, well, I got hurt doing this when she knew she was going to be doing it. So, but from that case, because he admitted to faking accidents, I dismissed his entire plate of work. And that's not indicative, right? Just because he faked accidents over here doesn't mean he didn't do a north-south circumnavigation. So there's definitely more research that needs to be done there. And for me, I was definitely looking for that because as soon as I saw it, I remember saying, okay, he's garbage, gone. It never happened. There's no north-south circumnavigation. So you just discount his entire body of work. And you look at it now, you're like, well, yeah, of course, because anything that you go looking for, you can find, right? So if I wanted to find something to dismiss you, if I didn't like something you said about me, I could look on the internet until I find something written by somebody somewhere that says something about you in a negative light. And if I just am looking for that, then I'm just going to discount you and say, no, he's here. Look at, he did something mean to this lady 8 years ago. So it's just, if we don't realize what we're actually trying to debunk, like if you're going to debunk that trip, then go debunk that trip.
Correct.
Because it doesn't really matter what the rest he's done. Doesn't matter if you find out he wore dresses and called himself Nancy. I mean, that doesn't mean he didn't do the trip that is claimed that he did. So it just is a different level of looking at evidence than I was used to. I really did.
Right.
Because I was honest. I mean, I wasn't telling lies, but that's not a good way to get to the bottom of things. It's just to say, oh, this guy faked an accident in this expedition. Well, then he didn't north-south circumnavigate. Doesn't follow.
I mean, come on, take me for instance. I'm a ridiculous character. I play the character Kang on my show. They call me Kang. I started wearing the crown because of it. I wear a freaking plastic crown, and I get on the internet and I rant about shit that I am passionate about. And a lot of times, people I agree with what you had to say, Kang. I'll overlook the goofiness because I like to deliver red pills with that wrapped up in some cotton candy of clownishness. Because if I can do that, you can accept hard things, hard truths, when they're delivered to you in a comedic fashion. Look how big, like Richard Pryor got. Look how big George Carlin got, one of my favorites. He would say absolutely fucking destroying, black pilling things to you, but it's funny, and it makes you think, you contemplate, and you really think about it. So I decided when I started Red Pill Fight Club over on Rumble and then on YouTube back in 2022, 3 years now, and YouTube, I was getting nowhere because I kept nuking my streams because I would say mean things about Dr. Fauci. And they said, you can't. Yeah, I know. How dare you? And I was like, yes, take the masks and the Pfizer butt plug. And I'm told, look, if they had a Pfizer butt plug, the lefties would be lined up around the block. I'm going to get 3, And it's like insane. And so I delivered it to him yeah, see, I got a chuckle out of you. I'm happy. I got a chuckle out of everybody.
For my safety.
I know. But like literally, you realize that there is an agenda by one side to silence you telling the truth. So when you see Flat Earth and it becomes so popular, and you see that like you guys are really making it harder for me to reach the normie. I'm not trying to reach the red-pilled people already. They're already out of the matrix. And some of them are batshit crazy too. We'll deal with them later. I'm trying to pull people out of the matrix and try to get them to wake the fuck up. We're never going to find a Neo. I'm not Neo. You're not Neo. None of us are. We're simply regular people. And my style is to deliver the comedy from a performer's perspective. I'm on the stage. I'm telling a little bit of jokes between my songs, and I'm playing songs. Fuck, I wrote a song, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It's my favorite ride at Disneyland. And when people hear it, like, man, it's a hard ride. That song's badass. What's it about? Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Oh yeah, I thought you named it that for some other reason. Read the lyrics. And they're like, holy shit, this song's about Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. I'm like, yeah. But it was hard rock. So got them to enjoy it. And that's my style. So I don't take myself too seriously. I take my message seriously. I take what you're doing seriously, especially what you're doing now. This is so difficult to have invested 10 years of your life in talking from one angle and now realizing that you were wrong. And again, it's the balls in the wheelbarrow, dude. You got those in front of you for how coming out saying, I was wrong. Here is why. And this is why you should leave Flat Earth too, because there's so much toxicity amongst them. And that's what I've been noticing lately. I watch Mick Toon, I watch Simon Dan. I like Professor Dave's points. I just don't like the way he comes off. He's very, I just don't I don't like his personality. I like Simon Dan's personality. I think he's very empathetic, very sympathetic. I like Creaky Blinders a lot. I think he's funny as hell. I think it's like, what are you telling me? You don't understand. He's got that very great, that funny ass accent, But, and I actually told him I was going to have you on the show, and he said, good. He's going to check it out. So, I want to talk to those guys too. Creaky, yeah. He seems like a super cool dude, but he does some really hilarious takedowns. See, his style is comedy as well. So I do the comedic red pill musician thing to get people to understand what's going on with the world from the Kangly perspective. And that's why people see me the first time. I had Aaron Prager, Dennis Prager's son. He's a friend of mine. He came on the show for the first time. He had never seen me. He'd only seen me in chat. And when I enter a chat, I'm like, Kang is under the chat. And people are like, Kang! I'm like, what's up, everybody? And I tip my crown. But he never seen me. So I invite him on the show. Camera goes on. He goes, that dude's wearing a crown on his head. What the fuck's going on here? But he stayed and he had a good time. And he was like, Alan Jacoby didn't even phase Alan. Maga Mornings didn't even phase him either. He was just like, I love this. This is awesome. You have a whole page of haters that are dedicated to hating on you. Yeah, I love that. I want haters the way you got haters. I said, yeah, you don't know shit until you've seen my haters. But now you have one-upped me, dude. You're the people that have come after you.
Oh, yeah, good luck on that one.
And you're definitely, you got a friend in me, dude. If anybody comes at you, just, hey, look, Kang, I got him. Garbage bags, shovel, no problem.
Good to know.
No problem, because I've experienced a lot of the same
things. Don't do that, write your name down.
So true.
The thing that sucks too is that the internet is garbage because it's mostly people that probably haven't been outside in 2 weeks. So
that's right.
Those people, they get away with saying things they would never say in person. I'm sure you get that too. Like you said, in person, you're going to be bigger. They're going to watch their mouth where they don't have to on the internet. So it's the same thing with me. I'm 6'3", and they none of these things would be said in person, but they on the internet are able to just make whatever accusation they want.
Keyboards make you brave. Yeah. And they see me and they go, oh shit, that guy lifts. Yeah. I squat more than you weigh. I'm like, okay.
So
I got Russ Hanneman gifted a sub. Sorry about that. Russ Hanneman gifted a sub. Thank you for the subscription gift in the chat, Russ. We appreciate that. And it landed on GF Wilmot. I appreciate that. A lurker in the chat. Tick Pickin is in the chat as well. Says your intellect shines through the performance and it's fun and adult. I appreciate that. Yeah. When you get past the clownishness of Kang, you understand I'm a really smart guy who's got a really big personality, and I try not to run you over with the red pills. Run you over, because in the red pill there's a deep core of like dark black, and it can be really black pilling, and I got to make sure you're staying in the sunlight, because if you're staying in the light you can see clearly. And it's like Plato's cave. I talk about Plato's cave all the time. Are you familiar with the allegory of Plato's cave?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, people chain up on the wall thinking that the shadows is all that's real, and then they finally get released and see the world for what it really is and try to convince, oh, this is what's happened to you. You've come out, saw that, now you're going back into the cave, which you're not obligated to do. You're not obligated to try to convince Dave Weiss or all these a-holes. Trust me, you never will convince them, but you know who you will do? You'll be saving people from falling in to the cave and getting chained on the wall like David Weiss. And who knows? Maybe he's just doing it for a grift. Who knows?
At this point now, I have to question all that because they're not even watching my videos. So one thing I've noticed now that they all have me blocked. Dave Weiss has me blocked on every platform. So when you do that on YouTube, you no longer have to see those people's videos. So you have to imagine Dave is just selling himself bullshit in his head, whether he believes it or not. Regardless, he has no possibility, there's no avenue to convince him that he's wrong because he's already made the assumption that he's completely right. So that's a dangerous cocktail there. because you're going to have a bunch of people that are self-repelling. They're it's the whole echo chamber thing. And then I think that many flat earthers probably do get tired of seeing Simon Dan or get tired of seeing MC Tune, so they just block them. Now they've completely eliminated from their life or from their internet browsings. And so, these people are not realizing how many things that they're saying are being proven wrong, being shown to be incorrect. And Dave Weiss will just say anything. When I got back, I started watching. I'm here in where I live is about 200 miles from Vandenberg Air Force Base in Southern California. And I remember a couple years ago, I saw a rocket launch by chance that we were in my backyard, and we looked up like, what the hell is that? And then found out it was a launch. I was like, wait, from 200 miles. So when I got back, I was like, I want to try and catch one of those again with an open horizon so I can see what's going on. So I went and filmed one. And sure enough, I see the rocket hit my horizon about 1 minute and 5 seconds after it takes off. So right away, you're like, oh, this is clear. And then you go look at the math, and the math says it's because it took off from way behind the curve or on the other side of the ball. And so that all makes sense. So when I started putting that out there, Dave Weiss immediately made a video saying the reason for it. And he made up some nonsense saying that there's 20,000 foot clouds that all then go by the horizon, and then you have to wait till the rocket gets above the 20,000 foot clouds until you see it, which is all at the horizon. So I don't know what it's doing for the first 1 minute and 5 seconds. I guess it just hovers there and nobody's land. But the problem with that is, of course, then I was able to disprove that, show it clearly, because I said, wait. So what Dave just did is he did away with all the evidence of like Canagoo, because flat earthers will say, hey, we can see Canagoo, we can see the mountain when we shouldn't see it. Well, Canagoo's only 9,000 feet tall, and you're 175 miles. So I'm like, shouldn't it be behind the 20,000 foot clouds that Dave Weiss invented? And again, but the problem is since he's blocked me, he never sees that and won't see it. And because flat earthers don't want to watch my stuff, they don't see it. So what you have is then again, he's going to put out that video, and now you have a whole host of flat earthers that if they ever get told, hey, there's a rocket that isn't seen for 1 minute and 5 seconds after it takes off, they'll just say, no, that's because of the cloud deck that's 20,000 feet tall. So they'll just repeat it. So they keep, how are they ever going to see their way out, right?
Yeah,
so
without ever researching for
sure
themselves, right?
Right. They're not going to look into it at all because Dave's the answer. And most people who watch YouTube, the reason that they do is because they've got busy lives or they just don't want to do the work. So they want somebody to tell them the truth, and they kind of get to know these creators or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that's the problem, is that these people go around repeating debunked nonsense, but they feel they're very in the right, and they've already made the assumption because Dave's so sure of himself and Austin Witt's so sure of themselves that they have a reason to be sure of themselves too. And the semantics of a little proof, so who cares, right? Okay, so Dave was wrong about that, but everything else is true. That's the way they'll think. So my whole goal is that if anybody ever became a flat earther because of me, I want to make sure that they at least hear me say why I'm not, at least listen to a few of the points that I think they can figure out for themselves. I don't think you need to look at NASA. You don't need to look at any professor. You don't need to look at any education. You can figure out the shape of the earth simply by yourself. So I want to make sure people hear that. And then I won't feel bad anymore for the people that, I may have moved into that belief system. Ultimately, we were responsible for our own beliefs, but I think it just helps if the person who told you that that item, if they come back and tell you after at the end, hey, I no longer believe that. This way, the person has the option to at least say, well, let me look into why you don't believe it. Or they choose to ignore you and they want to go on believing what you told them. Then I don't feel bad. It's not karmically on me. So that's kind of my goal right now, is to just make sure everybody hears. And I have that Unplugged series on my channel right now. There's 12 episodes that basically, if you go through all those, you will see why it's untenable. The earth cannot be flat. So.
Well, drop a link, man, in any and all the chats. Send that to me, because I've been watching those as well. The Unplugged are good. It's where, and I also see that you've done a few things. The dearth ball of the week. I like that. The dearth ball. I think that's funny. And you're very researched in this. You actually know more about this stuff than I do. You had to become steeped to the eyeballs in globe versus flat. So you had to learn all the math, or you learn a lot of the geometry and a lot of the terms. So even me as a layman, I'm still a layman from this, but I still know the earth is a sphere. And it's not just because, I don't sing that song. Yes, the world's a globe. I know, because Science Book told me so. I don't do that. I do that because that's what makes the most sense. It's why the Earth and the Moon and the Sun behave the way they do. I actually do little shorts now. I've been changing up the format over on YouTube, because remember on YouTube, my first 4 or 5 streams, boom, 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 boom. They just gave me, warning, and then they gave me strike, and said, if you do it again, you're gone. So I just abandoned YouTube. Well, now I've been putting it back up. And I have to watch what I say for the first 20 minutes of a stream. Of course, I have to hold back some of our advertisements. We got to pay the bills here in a second, right quick. This show is brought to you by Cocaine Bear Piss, the only fictitious, delicious drink ever. I'm going to go ahead and play that promo right quick.
Red Pill Fight Club is proudly sponsored by Cocaine Bear Piss. We produce and ship only the most royal class of products. We work with only the finest hosts to advertise our kingly line of merchandise. Style matters, you motherfuckers.
Style does matter, you motherfuckers. And don't forget, if you're going to enjoy that, also enjoy tasty deliciousness in the form of a cigar from mypatriotcigars.com. Promo code KANG, 25% off, everybody. KANG, K-A-N-G. 25% off with that delicious cocaine bear piss. Cocaine bear piss contains no cocaine, no bear, no piss. It's just water, everybody. Stop asking me for it. It does not exist. Or you can send $17.76 to P.O. Box 1111 Washington. $4.95 shipping and handling. There were no hippies or wayward hillbillies killed in the making of cocaine bear piss. Stop asking me for it. I created the cocaine bear piss because I didn't have a sponsor at the time. So I made up
Can you send me some?
I can send you a whole case of it, brother. Actually, I'm drinking it right now.
Let's hear it. That's crazy. That's fast.
This is the Kamala Cackles flavor. It tastes like tears.
Stupidity.
A little bit of stupidness. You know, when Kamala sat there, and I'm surprised Kamala's not a flat earther, because she says, you know, when she's high as balls and giving interviews, when you look at the stars, they're like, you know, not like random points. They're like form a picture, you know, that constellation. And when you look at it, you see it's there. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, Kamala? What the fuck is this? You know, like, what the hell is this? What are we doing here? And to think that we dodged a huge bullet Neo style with that crap, spending $1 billion in 90 days is just about as ridiculous as thinking that we live under a globe, a big dome, and that Jesus is wagging his finger at you every time you poop and masturbate. I'm just like, this is bullshit. This is complete bullshit. we don't live on a flying dead pizza, as Creaky Blinders would say. I'm sure he's going to be like,
Would Jesus be watching you masturbate anyway? It seems a little strange.
Facebook does. Tell me that Facebook's more powerful than the Christ? I think not. So it's like that. So I have, like I said, I deliver my shit with a little bit of a comedic bend. I will go on the rants.
Good.
When you want me to get fucking dark, I'll get dark. You should see us on the panel show at bowlingpoint.live. I'm the only comic relief they got, because trust me, it's a bunch of Morpheuses over there. I'm kidding. I see a lot of my co-hosts in there too. You sour pusses. No, I'm kidding. They're all a bunch of goofballs, just like I am. But we cut up on Thursdays on the Thursday Shakedown over there at Bowling Point. It's a lot of fun. But we do talk about the serious shit, you know. And I'm usually the one that's saying, hey, someone throw a pie, you know, at some point. Because if you get too dark, it gets too doomy. And so we have a good balance over there. And balance is what it's really all about. You had to find a new balance with your newfound understanding of the world. Can I ask you this one? When you were there in Antarctica and they put you on camera and they asked you, what do you think now? And you looked at the camera and you said, well, sometimes in life you're wrong. How long did it take for you after that to say, you know what? I need to start actually getting out there and clearing that karma plate. Because you mentioned your karma. You mentioned making sure that you can get people out of what you thought you got them into. Ultimately, they're responsible for their own actions and thoughts. But when did it occur to you?
That time when I said that, I meant wrong about there being a circling sun, not wrong about the flat Earth. But right. I would say it was on the flight back from Antarctica to Punta Arenas that on that 4-hour flight. And I guess it's because every other flight was with people, somebody sitting next to you, or we had the whole plane ourselves going down there. But coming back, because there was bad weather coming in the next day, a bunch of people from the camp were leaving. So the plane was, and when I say full, I mean, somebody in every row, not full like a flight that has 3 people, basically arm to arm. But because I was able to sit by myself and kind of really think, I remember, writing a bunch of stuff as I was flying back. And then when I got back to Punta Arenas, I just said to Duffy, I basically said the Earth's a sphere. So that's when it kind of hit me that And I would say even at that time, I still had this idea, okay, I'll come back and I'm going to, we'll go back to the drawing board. I'll try and get people to realize that our map's been debunked. So I don't think at that time I really knew I was going to come back and right away say that I'm no longer a flat earther. But my very first show back, I did say I'm no longer a flat earther. And then it was about a week after that I said that the Earth's a globe. So, yeah, I mean, that was kind of a decision I made just because I've never lied to my audience. So that was already known. I may have thought about, okay, when I get back, I'll say this or this, but then it was just quickly realized that people would know. I mean, it would just, or at least I would know that what I was saying wasn't how I truly felt. And so I just said, I'm just going to be honest. And that's what I was. So I basically came back and then seeing how they all reacted, right? You've seen that. They all fell apart, making up anything they could about why it was fake. And
Satan held the sun up and made it go like that. Or Lucifer, the angel of light, was in the sky. I saw that one pastor. I forgot his name. I said, "This is the shit that makes people." Yes. What's his name?
Dean Odell.
Dean Odell.
Yeah.
What a yokel.
I don't know how he has anybody in his congregation left, because that guy stood on a stage during a debate recently. I'm saying before the final experiment. He was on a stage and he said, hey, here's how we can figure it out real quick. Me and you go down to Antarctica. We go down for a week during their summer. If the sun circles our head, then the Earth is a ball. And if it doesn't, then the Earth's flat. So he said that out loud. And then we go down there. We find out that the sun does circle your head. And of course, this is where the God believers, the Christians, if you will, they can have that easy out where they can, anything that doesn't match, they can just dismiss as a deception from Satan. Of course, there's no further thinking in that, and that, for instance, if Satan can just manifest as a ball of light and be the sun one day, well, then how do we know he's not my wife another day, and how do we know he's not this glass of water I'm drinking now? So it's just dumb. And when you're able to just basically move past your things that you're incorrect by just applying Satan to them, talk about not impressive, and certainly doesn't need the wheelbarrow. Let's put it that way.
Well,
just an easy way out, right?
There's another phrase, I used to watch a lot of, Devin Tracy, Atheism is Unstoppable. When I was an atheist at one time, I became a believer for my own particular reasons, but I still have an atheist bend towards a lot of stuff. I'm so skeptical on a lot of things, but my relationship with, the Almighty is a little different than most people. And I never pushed it on nobody. I'm like, hey, look, you do you, I always look at things from an atheist perspective, even though I'm a believer, because I like to make sure that, am I believing, if I thinking this just because of, my confirmation bias? Am I suffering from cognitive dissonance when I'm trying to rationalize one thing or another? But they call it the God of the gaps. When you can't explain something, it's got to be God. Well, maybe no. Maybe if your perception of God is that he made a little flying dirt pizza and put a little dome on top like a bell jar, and we're all a bunch of ants in an ant farm, your concept of God is pretty fucking small. Oh, there's no other stars. Those aren't really there. Those are luminaries. Oh, there's no other planets. Oh, there's no other parts of the universe that exist too. Like, your concept of God is really small. Oh, you've pared God down to a bite-sized thing, to a meme. You've made God into a meme instead of saying, no, maybe he's bigger than what we can really comprehend, and stop trying to figure him out. Trying to figure it out. There's no point. There's no point arguing about the existence one way or another, but we can talk about the shape of the planet and why it's important, because there's this intersectionality of the right, that I call it. The left does it with their transphobia, homophobia, blah, 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 racism, and all the other bullshit they throw at people. You're a white male. Remember that was AIDS Skrillex? You're fucking a white male and all that crap. Right. It's all of that nonsense. That was the intersectionality of the left. But the intersectionality of the right is flat earth, neo-Nazism, Christian nationalism, it's this bizarre mix. And so that's why you see Eric Dubay preaching Hitler is a good dude and the Jews. That's why you're seeing, Caleb saying the same things. And that, who's the fellow that he's trying to sue McToon now, his defamation suit, this Edward guy. You talked about him.
Edward. Oh, Edward Hendry. Is he saying he's going to sue McToon?
I assume so. So McToon has been putting out videos talking about how this Edward guy, I think, wants to form some sort of lawsuit. And I'm like, this is all nonsense. Like, you go for it, Bo. Trust me.
Well, the guy's a lawyer, and he's just on his blog lying about us constantly. And his idea of what you should do is he just went on his blog. He wrote 1,000 lies. I sent him an email saying, "Hey, dude, you're lying about us. Knock it off. What are you doing?" Then he responded. He says, "Oh, which lies? What did I lie about you on?" I'm like, so now what he has to now I have to go through his list of 25 lies and give him links. I'm like, I'm not doing research for you, bro. And then he goes on his blog the next day and writes, Jeran answered one of my 25, but he clearly skipped the other ones on purpose. I'm like, no, I skipped them because that's not how you do articles. You don't write lies and then demand that the person that you wrote about gives you the answers to everything that you said. So the guy's just crazy, and his reasoning's so stupid. In one video, he's showing me in Antarctica walking towards the bathroom, and a cloud in the sky, because the way cameras work and the way optics work, is as I'm walking towards the bathroom, the cloud kind of lowers till it passes the top awning of the bathrooms there. And he says, oh, it's clearly a fake cloud because it's CGI, it's this and that. So I had to go out in front of my house and walk towards my house, showing him that as I walk towards my house, the clouds behind my house duck behind the roof. And, it's like so simple. It's like, you've never used a camera. Are these people saying, oh, there's converging shadows, or these shadows look like they're perpendicular? And it's like, get a camera and go outside and just film the sun, film the ground, film the shadows, and then you won't need to make all those false claims. So it wouldn't surprise me if he says he's going to sue him because he is a lawyer, but he's the worst lawyer I've ever seen. What lawyer would just come up with a whole plate of evidence that's all lies?
Yeah, I know, and that's what I interpreted. Yeah. I don't know if I'm right on that or not, but that's what I heard. And McToon put out a video and it mentioned some sort of lawsuit. But remember, this Edward guy is clearly still chained up in Plato's cave. He's not going to go outside.
Yeah,
I mean, and he may say, "I'm going to sue you, Kang, for this is an opinion. I can express opinions. Opinions are not defamation." And based upon what I have seen and heard from this guy, he smells of cat piss and shame. You hear me, Edward?
And he's a liar. He just a flat out liar, and he doesn't change his position. And he just, for instance, he asked me for hey, why didn't you take sunset video in Punta? I said, we did. If you want me to find it for you, he said, yeah, find me. So I went to Toon and got his video, sent it to, and then the next day he's on his blog saying it's fake, it's CGI. So I mean, that kind of thing is like, you're just not going to be on my good side. I don't even talk to him anymore. In fact, he emailed me the other day, and I responded and said, I'm not talking to you, because that is real evidence, and it's like you can tell. And then the thing I was so mad at is like, he says it's CGI and that it's not a film, but people live there. So you can go there. You can go look at it yourself. Don't just call somebody else's footage fake. You can go there. So if it's fake, then you should be able to call somebody down there and say, hey, can you film the sunset and then show me the real sunset versus the fake one? Of course, it's the exact same. So it's just people who don't have a desire to prove themselves wrong. Why would they? Right.
Of course, no one wants to prove themselves wrong, of course. But since we're speaking about such a turd that Ed Turd is, I'm going to call him Ed Turd from now on, and that's a term of endearment, Ed Turd. I'm not going to buy your bullshit book. And by the way, McToon mentioned he goes into this whole screed of that Ed Turd goes on screeds about the Jews too. I'm like, no surprise. He's a Riri and he's a hater. Who would have thought? Who thought retardation and hatred?
And a government agent. He's a government agent too, which is
it's
a problem.
That's right. You mentioned that. You mentioned that. True. He can't be behaving this way.
I wouldn't think so. I mean, I'm not paying taxes. Like I have a hard enough time paying taxes anyway. Right? I don't want to pay them. But okay, we get it. Everybody pays taxes, so I'm paying them. But I certainly do not pay my taxes so that you can employ lawyers who go on their blog and tell lies about me. That's not what I do. So, if you're a government employee, you should shut your mouth and do your job, and not think that you can also go and just slander people, because if you're a regular person, if you're just an everyday Joe, okay, go do what you want. I don't care. But I'm not paying you. But the people that I'm paying to work, I certainly don't want to just tell lies.
No crap. But in the YouTube chat, my first ever active chat, by the way. Thank you, Jeran, for bringing the attention to the channel. I hope all of you guys do follow me over there on the YouTube as well as on the Rumble and, of course, on the X if you can. But in here on the YouTube chat, we've got Big Fish says Jeran is an honest guy. I was like, hell yeah. And also we got Slith Eyes Shady says, what's up? Jeran is an honest, awesome dude. He says, Jeran is awesome, good guy. I said, yeah. Yeah, that's my perception. That's why I reached out to him on Facebook, was simply because, hey, look, I like what you're doing. What you're doing now, what you're doing now, in my opinion, is more important than even the debunkers who have been debunking flat Earth this whole time. They've been helping to keep the fire down. You're rescuing people out of the fire and literally pulling them out. That's the difference of, debunkers have stood around the burning house with the water hose and telling people walking by, don't go in there, it's hot. You were actually in there and you're running out with people on your shoulder now, and that's
Right.
even more commendable. That's why I said what you're doing is important. That's why what you're doing is awesome. That's why I believe in what you're doing and why I wanted to bring attention to it. We talk about it over here on sometimes Flat Earth versus Globe. We giggle, we chuckle, we laugh, but it's from that perspective that it's the normie you're trying to reach. It's like you're never going to get Eric Debay to come out and say he was wrong about 200 proofs and all that other crap, and he was wrong about the Jews.
No.
You're never going to get Dave Weiss to shut down his app that he's grifting off of. That's my opinion, Dave, that you're a grifter. That's my opinion. It's weird that you also have this data of here, find all the near flat earthers near you. That's very suspicious, dude. I don't like that. It's just kind
It's
of
all
weird.
leaking now. My address
weird.
got leaked because of that app, so
Right, and that's bullshit.
kind of unfortunate.
I know what it's like.
Yeah.
I've been doxxed and threatened and harassed, and people try to extort me, and I'm like, hey, fuck you. Bring it. You know, I'm not
Right.
afraid of you. But when you have someone trying to deliberately get people to willingly turn over their information, like, tell us what city and state you live in so we can do meetups. I'm like, I don't fucking know you. Why the hell would I want to meet up with you? And when you point that shit out, Ree Kang is pointing out that I'm trying to have people dox themselves so we can have meetups, and then I have all these problematic people around me. They're all about the Hitler and all about the anti-Semitism. I'm like, yeah, I point that out too. So I get the same kind of pushback that you're experiencing now. And there's a lot of people that were watching that all happen with me, and they come to me privately, yeah, Kang, I saw that went down, and I didn't speak up because I don't want them going after me. Well, have some fucking balls.
Right. So I get a lot of
That's what you stood the fuck up. You stood the fuck up and you said, no, I was wrong. And now people are going to tell lies about you. So when people tell lies about me,
Right.
I drop receipts proving it's wrong. And you'd be surprised. I'm not looking at your receipt. Your receipts are nonsense. I can't do it because it gives me cognitive dissonance. Shut up, I want to fight you. It's the weirdest thing watching people go from that.
Very
It's the same thing with Flat Earth. It's the same thing. So, it's been a pleasure having you out on the show, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you about this.
Thanks for having me. I do appreciate it. If anybody wants to reach out, they can. Best way is probably Telegram or Facebook Messenger, like you said. I do check that.
Please.
But no, yeah, that's my goal, is to rescue some of these people and hope that they at least get to hear an alternative position. Because what they're doing now is just like in a gang, right? In a gang, you get jumped when you leave. And the purpose of that is so that the other gang members don't feel like leaving. And that's what they're doing to me, is making it so that anybody else who is thinking of leaving looks at the situation and says, well, I don't want to end up being attacked like him. So
Right.
yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, they've gone as far as revenge porn at this point. So they just will stop at nothing. And so I guess that's just expected at this point, and we're going to move past it. They'll eventually run out of time. So you just hope that you get a couple people to see the truth, because you're right. You're not going to change a Dave Weiss. You're not going to change a Dubé. But the people that are in there thinking that those guys are telling the truth, I want to make sure that they hear me explain why they're not.
That's correct. That way you can sleep at night knowing you did everything you could, and it's up to them to come out of it. But you were in the burning building. You sat there going, this is fine for 10 years. And now you're running out and you got a couple of people on your shoulder. Right. They may be kicking and screaming as you're bringing them out, but they're going to look at they'll go, oh shit, the house was on fire. You were right. And that's something that I've experienced.
Eventually
myself.
that'll happen, right?
It will eventually happen.
Yeah. Eventually they're going to say that. Yeah. So the good thing is, I know eventually they're going to think to themselves, oh shit, Jeran was right the whole time. Mm-hmm. Now, will they die before that happens, or will they ever apologize? Probably not.
Probably not.
As far as the apology goes. But at least I know, because I've already had people reach out to me that say, thanks so much for what you did, because since the other people who went down there didn't really flip like I did, if I would have gone with them and said, no, it still could be flat, then I don't think anybody would have really left, because they would have all trusted what we had to say. But the fact of me speaking out so vehemently about it, that pulled Patricia Steer out, that pulled Paul on the Plane out, that pulled Robbie Davidson out, who was in charge of the first 3 or 4 Flat Earth conferences. So some of the big names have come out, and I hope more people do, but I also realize that it's going to take some balls at this point that I'm not sure many have.
Indeed. And that's, like I said, you got yours in a wheelbarrow right now. So a lot of people have to understand that it does take a lot of this, the honesty that it does take. I want to thank everybody from coming out to the show tonight. I'm going to put the 24/7 music back on. Remember, I do my shows Monday through Friday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. We do, of course, the Monday Madness with Speak the Truth in the Groin of the Dan Bongino Show. He comes over and hangs out with me, my crazy Kangly ass, and we do things there right here at Rumble. We do stream it over onto X and to YouTube. And then, of course, I do my Taco Tuesday where I try to have guests, people I feel are important to talk to, like Jeran and others. And of course, I do Wednesday. I scroll right through James Woods' Twitter feed. I do it Walk Into the Woods with James Woods. Thursday, we do Thursday Thunderdome, me and Newt. It's all rock talk. I play rock videos. It can't be done on YouTube. It's all on Rumble exclusive rock talk. And of course, I do Friday, a gaming night. We're playing Diablo 2 Resurrected right now. We got more slots available in the party if you want to do that. Want to thank everybody for coming out. Everyone's saying awesome show on Rumble. Thank you guys for enjoying it. Jeran, yes, he was a delight to have, and it's great to see we have. I try to keep the conversations varied. Try to keep the content fresh, and bring it to you. We'll put clips of the show out. Of course, the replay of the show will be put behind the paywall, and but you guys who want to actually see clips will be coming out in the next 24 hours or so. Jeran, thank you. We'll do a little post-show breakdown after we cut the stream, but thank you for coming out. Tell us more about where they can find you and why. So go ahead and plug what you're doing.
Yeah, so Jeranism is the name of the channel. It's Jeranism. And yeah, I'm on Rockfin, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Rumble, so you can find me at all those places. My website's jeranism.com. Best place to reach me. All the contact stuff is on the website. So that's basically, I am going to try to start, we're going to have a radio station coming out pretty soon. It's going to be called rebelsradio.com. So the site is up. It just needs a few more things, so no need to go there yet. But look forward to that. It's just going to be kind of a another true station. I used to be on Truth Frequency Radio. I don't know if people remember that, but it went under. So I kind of want to provide basically the same thing that was, just another place for people to find answers to things that the mainstream's lying to you about.
All right, awesome, man. I'd like to talk to you more about that too. I want to say good night and God bless. I'm going to go ahead and play that outro for everybody, and then we'll put the 24-hour music back on. Don't forget, everyone are going to be going over to bowlingpoint.live to check out Rev Rant and his show tonight. Good night and God bless all of y'alls, and enjoy the outro there. Maga Mayhem, Crowns and Chaos.